Hello, I'm Jay, your DM. I use he, him.
I'm Jerika, she, her.
I'm Leap, I use he, him. And we have the very distinct pleasure of welcoming Hadeel, and you'll know her as Twittyshuch from Twitter, onto our great show.
Yay!
Yay, that's me. Yeah, my name is Hadeel, she, her.
Excellent. Welcome, Hadeel. You are the second in a row member of the Bells to be on the show. In
and
2
the
weeks.
Third overall.
Yeah, third overall. Second in 2 weeks, third overall. We're collecting the whole set.
I think it's a trend, yeah.
Yes, we're like little Pokemon, like little tiefling Pokemon.
Listen, it turns out that show has a high concentration of awesome people.
It's true.
It's unusual. Frankly.
Oh my goodness, the percentage is gigantic.
That's right. One might say 100.
It's just 100 emojis over and over again.
Yeah, we talked to Lisa last week, so check that one out if you missed it. And then we actually had Maz on before they became the hot celebrity of their new show. We could say we knew them before they were cool.
But they were still mazzing at that time.
The episode has that title for a reason.
Yes.
They were canonically amazzing from the first time they put up their incredible stitch work. Like,
indeed.
That stuff is beyond reckoning.
So check out that episode.
Listen, we're going to plug them all.
This one.
Yeah, let's start at number one. But now that we're here...
No, don't start at number one. Actually, I would recommend around 10 is where we got the audio down. So anyway, normally when we start off, we do something we like to call a dungeon crawl, where we talk about cool and fun and exciting things we saw in Dungeons and Dragons over the last week.
Dungeon crawl.
I think that the most exciting thing that's coming up for me is that we are getting very close in September to Play to Beat Brain Cancer's 48-hour stream, where they're going to be doing a charity live stream of Dungeons and Dragons games run by a bunch of fresh-faced GMs from all over the interwebs. And it's going to be really cool. It's kind of a low-key event. They're going to be putting on a bunch of 3-hour D&D sessions, and all the proceeds will go to charity. It's a bunch of volunteers going in, throwing down their time and their dice for a good cause. And we're actually going to be recording a live episode on that as well. So we'll be there hanging out. And I thought maybe we should probably mention it before it arrives. So I've decided to finally bring it up.
An episode before that will be released before.
Yeah,
exactly,
probably.
yeah.
Yay.
This is the most foresight we've ever had on this show.
Oh my goodness. So proud.
We're actually going to announce something before it happens. That's incredible. It's like we're organized at all.
That's half the battle, though. Like, I've done stuff and I'm like, I should probably do something about this 2 weeks after it happens. Whoops.
Absolutely. With the delay in the time schedule, it's like you never really think about it. Oh, I should probably record an announcement. Oh, this episode's going to go up way after the fact. Never mind. Missed my window. Oh, yeah. Fortunately, we have the Queen of Order, Haley, to keep us on track. She does all of the work there.
She does a lot of the work.
Well, that's true.
She shouldn't be made to do all of the work.
Are you feeling that we are putting it too much on Haley? Or are you feeling that other people aren't getting the credit?
No, I just don't like the praise. She does all of the work.
Oh, I see. That's fair.
I think, and it's not that she doesn't do a whole bunch of the work, but she shouldn't be expected to do all of the work.
Oh,
well, yeah,
no,
absolutely.
for sure.
Anyway.
All right. Well, there we go. We're learning. We're growing in real time.
You know, I feel like we've done a lot of big learning so far. I feel like I've gotten closer
we're 5 minutes
to you.
in.
We're 5, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I feel like, I'm the mediator here. It's like family therapy session. I'm just writing it down on a legal pad, and it's just drawings.
The important thing is that we're all receptive to change. Jerika, save us from this conversation.
Okay. My semi-related to D&D dungeon crawl is the new animated show Disenchantment came out recently.
Ooh,
and
yes.
if you aren't familiar with this, you might be familiar with The Simpsons, or you might be familiar, like myself, with Futurama, which is the epitome of funny, silly animated stuff.
Yeah, that's more of a sci-fi direction. This is more of a fantasy direction.
Yeah, so Matt Groening, who was involved in the 2 previous projects I mentioned, has now dipped his little toesies into the fantasy realms. And I just started it. So, you know, there's a spunky princess, there's elves, there's demons, there's maybe some sort of a yuan tea. I'm not sure yet, but castles and glens and all that sort of stuff you might be familiar with from D&D, and all of the tropes that are getting turned on their head. So there's some overlaps there, I think, in interest. So check
is
it
this
out.
like laughing at fantasy or with fantasy, in your opinion?
That's a great question. I've watched like 25 minutes of it.
Great.
And
okay.
there's 10 episodes.
So we're going to need the follow-up report next week.
I think from what I've seen, it's laughing at the tropes of fantasy, but in a knowing way.
Yeah, because there's like Big Bang Theory, right, that laughs at nerds. And then there's Community that sort of laughs with nerds. Like, hey, we're nerds too, we get it. Whereas Big Bang Theory is like, hey, look, nerds. And it's like, oh, that's the joke, is that they are nerds. So it depends. For me, I like the shows that kind of laugh with you than at you.
Well, we should both watch it and have a debate high school style.
Oh my gosh,
nice.
we can have our first new segment.
gosh.
Inside debates, inside the ring.
Inside the ring.
You're gonna fall asleep.
Inside the ring, I think is good. We've captured it. We've
Got it.
coined that.
Thunderdome insight.
No, we were there, and you took us one step too far. We got to take it back.
Jerika, did you mention
well.
what where people can find this new
Nerd flirks.
Nerdflirks?
Flirks.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, I thought that was a real thing. And I'm like, what the goddamn hell is nerd? I thought it was like some sort of like back
New thing
alley,
you haven't heard of yet.
We just don't have
what, like
sponsorship yet. So
like
Yeah.
a torrent site. I was like, what is nerd?
Welcome to Jerika's sense of humor.
Yeah, that, and also writing words with spaces between the letters. That's
I
my
do that
humor.
a lot.
I love it. I don't know why, and I'm sure it annoys everyone, but it's great.
Yeah, I love like the spacing because it makes me feel like I'm some sort of eldritch horror. Like
Yeah,
it's like my hell voice. I don't know why. It just is.
That's cool because I think of it like emphasis, and it's not emphasis that I'm saying each letter. It's like I'm just stretching the word
Yeah,
out.
I imagine it's like when you do like a slowdown on audio, and it's just like you're repeating it that way.
We all demonstrated it.
I like that more now.
Our incredible audio engineering on this show. We do sound effects. We do character voices. We do our own improv musical transfers.
I want the Dragon Prince to come out like yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
yes,
That show looks really good.
It has a lot of the same writers as the Avatar franchise.
Yeah.
And I need it. It needs to fill the void that Voltron is about to leave. So.
Yeah, and it's got confirmed canon LGBTQ rep before it even premieres, right?
Oh yeah.
Maybe like actual, not
Yeah.
your gays.
Oh man, listen, you want to talk about Voltron, the last season of Voltron? Because I'm ready. Let's talk.
Welcome to Voltron Talk.
Leading up 3 weeks of like, oh man, we've got a brand new character and he's gay, and it's like, yay! And then the show comes out and it's like 2 lines. If you're gonna go, don't expect me to be waiting for you when you get back. It's like, all right, that was the scene, and then the next time you see him, he's dying in an airship.
Yeah.
No.
Like, this is garbage.
No.
Everyone is garbage.
It was.
But
They definitely oversold it. Voltron anger.
Hashtag.
Yeah. Hashtag Voltron anger. It's the bonding thing of this season.
Hashtag not my Voltron.
Oh no. Well,
Hashtag
see, that's the
kill
thing,
your
though.
Voltrons.
The funny thing about it, right, is that it's a thing that's kind of lame, and you want to be like, oh, this is lame. But the overwhelming volume of people shouting at the creators about it makes me not really want to jump in the ring and be the 1
Fandom
million.
is trash. Like,
Yeah.
I'm at the age where, like, I'm very open. I'm almost 30 years old. So I'm at the age where I don't really participate in fandom because I'm not here to babysit somebody's child.
Yeah.
And I also recognize that teenagers need a space to flex their whatever it is that they have going on Tumblr.com.
Yeah.
I wish that there was, I've seen some of these kids say things and I'm like, y'all really need an adult. But also,
which isn't me.
I know. I'm like, it can't be me though. That's
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Who wants to sign up to be the fandom police? No one.
Don't. But also, I think a lot of these people might also be just over the threshold of adulthood, and I'm like, I don't know. I can't participate in fandom anymore. I just very quietly like the things that I like, and sometimes I'll share those with people I work with at my day job and my very close friends. But I cannot. Never again. The shipping wars times. I've returned from the war of fandom, the trenches of fanfiction.net.
You survived.
You remember the days of Super Hulock?
I do, and I have 1,000-yard stare. I don't even like those two things.
Or three things.
Three things. See? That's how out of touch I am.
You're still fighting the good fight, though, banning the haters on Hellspells chat. So we doff our caps to you.
I'm just old and tired, and so like I ain't got nothing to lose. I'm gonna risk it all in the chat.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like it's sort of like when you throw a rock at a city in a way. You throw a rock at a city and it's not really going to do anything. You're just kind of throwing a rock out there. But when there's like a hurricane going and you're slinging rocks and they're just becoming more power for this hurricane, then it's not so cool. So it's, you know, if you're just saying you're one thing and it's in isolation and you're trying to be constructive about it, it's whatever. But that kind of semi-constructive criticism in the eye of a hurricane can just feel like more shit on the shit pile.
Oh yeah,
totally.
For sure. I definitely didn't like the response of, yes, we are familiar with the bury your gays trope, and we know that it's hurtful. We chose to use it anyway, but we didn't know it would be that bad. And I'm like,
yeah.
So you already are aware of how your fandom reacts to things, and you didn't know it was going to be that bad. My dude,
we
my
knew
guy.
it was bad, but we didn't think you guys would take it badly. Like, what?
Just say that you
goofed, you know?
You goofed. Just say that you goofed. You
goofed.
You didn't think it through.
Welcome to Voltron Air, your Voltron fan cast.
I'm just really bad about space.
Listen, we have feelings about space lions, and we got to get those out somewhere.
Yep.
All form the mouth talking about something else.
I love it.
Yay!
Go, 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 go.
Moving right along into our next segment, it is time for a roll call.
Toot toot. I just wanted to be a part of it.
Toot toot, yes.
We don't need musical cues. We got them built into our pipes.
In our hearts.
Boop, the pipes in our hearts. So today, on Roll Call, we're going to be talking about Warlocks. This is a class I have never played, but I think is really cool, mostly because of Chris Straub.
Oh, yes. Well, I thought Warlocks would be a really great one to talk about for a multitude of reasons. One, like Jerika, there are a few different people on podcasts who play some very, very interesting Warlocks, and we are very lucky enough to actually have one here today. So I thought that it would be really cool to talk with Hadeel about Warlocks and also just talk about the class in general, because there's some very different versions of Warlocks that we have on streams that you can catch weekly. But Jay, you said that you have some experience and you have some thoughts. Why don't you start us off, buddy?
Warlock is an interesting class compared to a lot of other 5th edition casters because of the unique nature of pack casting. It is extremely limiting up front, but the invocations that they get, as well as the high-level special spell slots that they get, kind of make up for the limitation of pact casting. So the pact casting allows you to basically have 2 spell slots at your highest spellcasting level. So anytime you cast a spell out of your 2 spell slots, it's going to be at your highest spellcasting level. Later on, you get a 3rd spell slot, and then even later on, you eventually start getting to pick a 6th level spell that you can just cast for free, and then a 7th level, 8th level, and I believe even up to a 9th level spell that you can cast for free, not out of those pack casting slots. This helps keep you on parity with some of the other magic casters. So the downside is that you only have these 2 slots at your highest level, so you're not going to be blasting spells every round. But these tend to be highly destructive spells or spells with a strong impact on the battlefield, such as Hunger of Hadar, and as well as spells like Hex, which allows you to deal extra damage with your cantrips. And Hex is also unique in the fact that it lasts an increasing duration the higher level you cast it. So as you're going up as a warlock, you cast it once in the morning, you take a short rest right after, and you have it for the next 8 hours, 12 hours, I think, at highest level. So it's getting stronger and lasting longer as you're leveling up. And the unique thing about a warlock is they get back all of their spell slots on a short rest. Yeah. So even though they're extremely limited in slots, they can recover those between battles. So you have the pretty much free reign to go into a battle that you think you're going to have a chance to rest after, blasting at your maximum level, throwing everything you've got out there, and then pew 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 with cantrips afterwards. And just pray that you get an hour to sit down afterwards.
I think that's a really interesting I think that's a role play option, and I also think that knowing your class at that point in time, really as a character or as a player advocating if you're possible to get that short rest, all of a sudden you really do get to expand your abilities there, right? That's very insightful, and I know when I've played Warlocks in the past, that's something I just forgot because nobody else, by the nature of the game, no one needed that short rest. It wasn't like people needed their hit points back because we had a cleric and the person hadn't popped their second wind yet. But, for a warlock to be feasible, knowing that, okay, we have a battle and we might have another one, asking everyone to take a little break if it's possible is like you said, it's a great way of doing that. What I like about their spells, a lot of them last, and I think the emphasis that most of them get better as you play them.
The spells do.
Yeah. The spells get more powerful the higher.
Even when you cast them at the same level or higher level?
Well, as a warlock, you always cast at your highest level.
Exactly. So you can use level 1 spells when you're level 5, and they still do great.
Yeah, warlock spells especially tend to grow with you. Dissonant Whispers. It upcasts much more powerful.
And I'm blanking. You'll be able to help me in a second. And I'm trying to remember the shield one, the ice.
Oh, Armor of Agathis.
Armor of Agathis, yeah. And I think your hit points go up by 5 every level, and the damage that it receives back, right? So you start at first, it's not a lot. You get 5 extra hit points, and you do 5 damage to everyone who hits you. But in a few levels, that's 20 damage every time someone hits you. 25 damage, right? That can stack
as long
pretty
as you
well.
have the points of the hit. As long as you have hit points of that armor left, it still does damage.
Exactly.
So if an attack hits you and doesn't do all of the hit points that you have, then you get another use of it, and so it kind of gives you a little temporary hit points, makes you a little more viable in melee, while at the same time also delivering back a little bit of hurt to anybody who attacks you, further incentivizing a more melee warlock build to just get in there and get in the action, because now there's going to be a consequence for enemies to attack you as well. So Hadeel, you have actually had some experience with this class, and you're in a unique position because I believe your character is actually trying to pass off what they're doing as a different class. Is that correct? They're trying to hide some things?
Yeah.
Some secrets?
Definitely. Secrets.
Now this is Nejma, right?
Nejma, yeah. So
from Trapped in the Birdcage.
It's on Thursdays from 5 to 7.
Thank you. Pacific.
Time. Yeah. on twitch.tv/D&D.
And for listeners who aren't aware of this show, it's been talked of in the past, but Holly Conrad, who we've mentioned a lot, who is a very well-known name, and just a generally...
Also Anna Prosser Robinson.
Oh, yes. True.
And Jimmy Wetzel, and...
Jerika, do you mean Hollywood celebrity and Emmy Award winner Chad Quant?
Thank you so much.
That is a deep running game. Like, so, and I have to admit, I was new to watching it, and it is just cool. It is just cool. But yeah, like, please tell us about your experience with Nejma, the reluctant warlock in a weird way.
So Nejma loves to lie. She is horrible. So when for a lot of people who don't know this, but Trapped in the Birdcage is the first time I've ever played Dungeons and Dragons. Never played before.
What?
And
That's
when I was
crazy.
making,
You're really good at it.
oh, thank you. When I was making my character, I was too embarrassed to ask Holly because I didn't want her to think I was a fraud, even though she didn't know I hadn't played before.
Is there some Hadeel coming out in Nejma?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was like, I can't let her know I'm a fraud. Even though she picked me and Jimmy specifically because we had never played.
Yeah.
I was Googling, like, how to roleplay.
And you do it so well. I think it must come naturally to you.
I appreciate that so much. But somebody, I don't know who it was. It was like page 11 of Google of Googling this. Somebody was like,
page 2 drops off in quality a lot. So the fact that you got to 11, that shows the dedication.
That's deep.
It's called panic Googling.
No.
Yeah, somebody was like, just pick like somebody from TV and like use their personality. And it wasn't even about role playing. It was like how to write original characters, which I know how to do, hopefully, because I'm a paid fantasy writer. So I should probably have figured that out by now. And the thing is, like, I make characters all the time, but I was nervous about this particular one. So I picked 2 of my favorite horrible people on TV at the time, which was Tahani from The Good Place and Mona Lisa Saperstein from Parks and Rec. And I'm like, if these 2 had a magic elf baby, this is who Nejma is. So Nejma is not an honest person. She has never been an honest person. She was a former carny, and basically what happened was, in order to escape this plane that was on fire, Nejma made a pact with an infernal that would open a door for her friends to escape, then got super nervous and didn't want to lose all of these new amazing powers because this is the first time that her magic has been optimal as opposed to
Suboptimal. Yeah.
Suboptimal.
It's a brand I know well.
Yes. So this is the first time her magic has been legitimately good and impressive, and she didn't want to give that up, so she has not
she was a
told
wizard
anybody.
originally, right?
Yeah, she was just a wizard, and her backstory is she didn't go to some sort of magic learning institute. She learned from, like, stolen books and, like, illegally obtained scrolls, and it was really showy magic to make the circus she worked at more exciting and sell more tickets. So, yeah, not a refined wizard, did not get sent to wizard college, learned from, like, overdue library books and black market scrolls. How Holly is running it is I don't get to choose when I tap into the powers of my patron. I have attempted to and have been rebuffed several times when we were fighting, like, this crazy spectral space dragon, and I tried to tap into, like, my patron's powers, and Holly was like, they seem uninterested. Like, so I look forward to seeing how Holly is going to have Nejma utilize these powers.
I think that is, like, that kind of ties into something I wanted to talk about with the Warlock, is that patron pact relationship, that patron, like, Warlock relationship is just, I was talking with some people on Twitter, and that is the big role play opportunity for a lot of Warlocks, is players and DMs either working together or the player just kind of trusting in the DM. of figuring out who this patron is, where these things are coming from, and just how that relationship works between this extraplanar entity, whether it's good or evil, and why these powers come.
There are actually two questions on this topic. One is the kind of basic one, which is what kind of pacts can warlocks make besides the usual one? I was thinking of creating a warlock character who didn't make a pact with a demon, devil, eldritch being, but instead made one with the benevolent being, specifically one with a chaotic good alignment. Is this a valid thing that can happen? Can warlock pacts be only with malevolent deities? And this is by Phenomenal Pancake Warlock.
My favorite kind of warlock.
Exactly.
Totally.
Not just a pancake warlock, a phenomenal pancake warlock.
Just top drawer pancakes.
Top drawer? You keep your pancakes in a drawer, do you?
Only the top one. The bottom ones, it's not good. It's not good.
That's where you keep the cheese, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know.
Or the wine.
I am all about the idea of a person who is very good friends with their warlock patron. Bagai, actually, Leapachesskey, your character, he was a warlock, and he had a good relationship with his patron. She was a fae of the summer courts, Titania, and she had sort of adopted him as a novelty in the Feywild, being that he was a human and not a human. He was from the Prime Material, and I was just taking a look. Like, I'm glad you mentioned that. For our creator of Wonderful Warlock Pancakes, the place to start, I think, is really taking a look at the patrons list that they give you. Because when because I was kind of done, I've played that trope, and I like that trope of, working for the darkest parts of the world as a willing or unwilling tool of evil. I wanted that other flair to a warlock, and the Archfey is a really great way, because all of a sudden you tap into the lore of the Feywild, which is, depending on where you go, it's like a playful trickster, just a little like more flowery and revelry that you can get than like the Fiend, for example, or the Great Old One. You're not getting and now
those
they
kinds.
have Celestial as well, and the Pact of the Blade, where you can actually be bonded to the Raven Queen and magical weapons, things of that nature.
So let's talk about this question then.
Which was, Al-Massari92 recommended, can you have a romantic warlock patron? Your relationship with your patron can be romantic in nature? I think that's hysterical, and I 100% endorse it.
I think it's actually like in the warlock section that it might say that, or hint at it. So yeah, like an otherworldly patron love story would be an interesting way to go.
Go ahead and save that one.
Yeah, write that one down. Wink, wink.
Even if it's just like one-sided, like even if you're just in love with your patron is this like almighty beyond
your senpai, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yes, my senpai.
Notice me. I'm level 20. Notice me already.
God dang it.
Absolutely. No, but I just wanted... Can you have a romantic warlock patron? Yes. Also, you're invited to my game. Come over and play with me. This sounds great.
So does that mean that Bana can profess her undying support and works to one of her Valkyries and have a level in warlock?
Listen, if that's how you want to go, hit me up. Let's chat this out. Let's get this character development rolling. I'm ready.
What I think this really highlights is the fact that this is like every class has their own kind of in for a roleplay opportunity, and this is the stuff that I like talking to a DM, especially someone who I know it's going to be like a long-term game of those weird and wacky ideas, to see how they can fit into whatever world, right? Like if you want to try and have that romantic relationship, or if you want to have like more of a trickster god, or really go for that kind of dark, deep, never knowing where it's coming to turn, like the warlock is a great space to explore that, I think.
Yeah, I would almost describe Jester's relationship with in Critical Role her relationship with her traveler god to be almost warlocky in its nature.
Oh, totally. And
yeah, there's a little bit of edge on that relationship. Submitted by OCD Incarnate DM. All right.
OCD Incarnate DM.
Ah, yes.
That's another way you could say it. I've heard it both ways. The time I said it, I heard it the other way.
Yeah. So I feel this question because I have a certain like typical warlock that I think of when I think of warlocks. So OCD Incarnate DM has been so pissed with the stereotype warlocks as edgelords. So he or she or they are looking for non-edgy warlocks. And I think that, you know, if you have the first step in the long recovery process from edgy warlock is to choose a patron that is not evil. So a celestial or a fae or something like that.
I think even there's a big enough list right now that you could even, if, for example, like the challenge with that, and I'm going to talk for Air on this one, because I know that when he picks stuff, he likes looking at what that stuff gives him, right? There's that kind of player that starts with the abilities over the role or the relationship. But if you look at like the Raven Queen, the Undying, the Seeker, these are all different patrons that don't necessarily have to be evil. Like maybe this person was tumbled into this, right? And even in the PHB, like sometimes it's described that sometimes it's a very personal relationship that you have with your patron, and sometimes it's like an almost ambivalent one, like you're gaining your powers almost through a radiation that just kind of comes to you, right? Like they might not even know you exist. So if you really like something that the Raven Queen or even the Great Old One offers, but you don't want to necessarily be that like dark and broody person, I
tell me about a warlock that has a patron of a Great Old One who is not edgy. Not that they don't exist. I'm just asking as a devil's advocate. Totally.
I would play it like this. I would play it, and I'm coming up with this right on the top of my head, but imagine your older brother listened to emo music and but that emo music was a dark tome.
The Death and Dying tour
exactly
is my version of emo in D&D.
Yeah. So imagine someone in your family whom you love really greatly shows you, or you trip onto something that you're not supposed to, right? And it's that almost like an X-Man kind of moment, like the powers kind of hit you in the face, right?
Listen, it's a classic. It's a classic tune.
Okay, I'm good.
Now, Jerika, that was too good, and we're going to get a copyright claim.
No.
Play less than 10% of it, and you'll be fine.
All right.
But I guess
the end.
I guess then you could you could just be curious, right? Like if you were a benevolently curious person who...
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
I'm already thinking of races. Gnome comes to mind.
Totally, right? That, all of a sudden I can talk to people in my mind, right? So you go into, I'm like Buddy the Elf, right? Imagine if your warlock was like, hi, like, what's your favorite color? Mine is purple. And like, even the voice isn't moving, right? Like, it's just that kind of thing.
I'm gonna go ahead and steal that.
Yeah, right at all the things.
Kisris worships a benevolent Great Old One who is just like an abstraction of math. It just happens that the intercessor is a non-benevolent one.
Mm-hmm.
But if he had his ideal arrangement, his warlock patron would be benevolent. A Great Old One doesn't necessarily have to be like Cthulhu. There are some other ones that are a little less... all things
but
must
I
come
think
to
what
dissolution.
Leap has described is that your character's personality is completely separate from the deity you worship.
Or the class you play, or the race you are.
On one end where you have like Evelyn, who is the perfect embodiment of Lathander, bright and sunny as a metaphor, but also, as part of her personality. Then on the other end, you could have, a patron who is, let's say, the patron of the sea and storms and whatnot.
Oh, Umberly.
Umberly, yeah. But like your lived experience doesn't make you mean or nasty or whatever. It makes you inquisitive or cheerful or giving or even loving.
Listen, I would be an evil god too if I had Umberly's nickname. Like, what the fuck were they thinking?
Yeah,
Twittyshuch,
look it up.
Like, Hadeel, do you have any ideas of like how a player could create, like, since you're playing someone who is learning about their relationship with someone that is definitely evil, your deity seems to be pretty terrifying. What if Nejma was different? Like, how would that play, right? Like, what would you do?
Nejma may not be like the best person overall, but I don't think she's evil.
Oh, totally.
I think she's more self-serving and self-centered than like pure evil. So maybe having to deal with something that is pure evil might present as a challenge for her. I'm still trying to think of like how I want her to handle this. Because she is self-serving, she probably has it in her mind that this patron is here to serve me and not the other way around.
Oh,
I look
cool.
forward to seeing how Holly just smashes my face into the ground with that, which I will deserve.
Nejma's Nejma, and she's going to be herself even after this pact. Like, this pact didn't change who she is fundamentally.
Right.
So she's not a grimdark character, and so I don't think she will be after this pact either. And that's kind of the core thing. If you have a strong character concept, then you don't necessarily have to worry about being put into one box like that.
Right.
Do you know who also isn't a grimdark character? Miga.
Oh, Miga's so good.
And I would love to ask Hadeel some questions so we could talk about Miga.
Let's do it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Hadeel.
Yes, that's me.
Everyone has a different story of how they got involved in Dungeons and Dragons, some of which you've written about on your blog. But for our listeners, how did you get into Dungeons and Dragons? And what led you to this place where not only now you are streaming on 2 different games, but also doing amazing stuff like writing curriculum for D&D summer camp and running games with some amazing people / educators?
So, like, just kind of to preface this, because we did kind of touch on it, the first time I ever played Dungeons and Dragons was February 22nd of 2018. That is this year. I've only been playing for like 6 months.
Maz said something similar when we talked to them, and it blows me away. But I think that there's just something about D&D that people latch onto, and they get it. They get it real quick.
Yeah.
If you're a creative person, there's no better game.
Exactly. That was my whole thing. It's like, I had always wanted to play D&D, but I never had the opportunity.
Mhm.
And I already told everybody how old I was before, but my parents were growing up in the 70s and 80s when the Satanic Panic was a thing, and so they do not like the D&D, and to this day they really don't like it either.
Here.
They really don't understand it, which is fine. They'll get there. I was very much like a really big fantasy nerd as a kid, and it's mostly like I always attribute like my push to do fantasy things and write fantasy with the movie The Dark Crystal. My earliest memory is watching The Dark Crystal at my grandma's house. I don't know when or why.
I don't know how, but I think so.
Yes.
But yeah, I remember watching The Dark Crystal and being like really obsessed with it. That and the movie The Sword and the Stone. And I watched the movie The Sword and the Stone.
The animated Disney one.
Yes. So much that I wore the tape out, and I have a very vivid memory where I used to go to kindergarten, but only in the afternoon, and I would watch either Sword in the Stone, The Dark Crystal, or Gullah Gullah Island before I would go to school. And my mom would always make me take the tape out, put it back in the clamshell case, and then back on my special bookshelf with all my books and my movies. And I have this vivid memory of me at like 5.5, maybe 6, pulling the tape out and all of the tape getting caught in the VCR.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so you know, and that all sounds very empathetic, so I'm sure you've been there. There are people who would not understand this.
This is an 80s kid's struggle. Yeah, for sure.
But I just have this memory of like pulling it out and then my mom behind me going, "Oh, honey." It's my first heartbreak is Sword and Stone. Yep, and
Sword and Stone, that's the one where they had to like lay in the cauldron, right?
I think so.
To break it.
Yeah, my memory is of Arthur visiting Merlin in his weird house and him magicking all of his
Black Cauldron.
Yeah, you're thinking of the Black Cauldron. Magicking all of his items into his special carpet bag and turning Arthur into a squirrel, and a girl squirrel falls in love with him. And yes, so that was great. And Robin Hood.
Oh yeah.
It becomes easier and easier every day to identify where the furry generation came from.
I get it. I'm not a furry, but I get it.
Robin Hood. Like, listen, they put a lot of fuel on that fire. They have no one to blame but themselves.
Yeah, so I read a lot of books as a kid too, because I lived fairly close to a library and I went to a Montessori school. And so like books are important. And I had a librarian, I think either a librarian or a teacher, told me about the Magic Treehouse series, and then I read Redwall, and then Harry Potter when I got a little bit.
Oh, I loved Redwall.
Oh man, yeah.
That's my shit. I love Redwall. We die for Redwall.
Martin the Warrior is still one of my favorite stories. But I actually liked most of the ones about the badger really more than I did the ones about the mice.
Yeah, I really liked mice as a child. I really liked mice and rats, and I really loved the movie Secret of Nim as well. But my mom saw me watching it, and I don't understand why she would let me watch like The Dark Crystal, but not The Secret of Nim. She's like, it's too scary. It's too scary, and I'm like, it's not. It's all
scary. About like the visual, right? The Dark Crystal. If you look at it, it just looks like, oh, it's puppets. It's fine.
No, for a long time I didn't know they were puppets. Like, I'll be upfront, I did not know they were puppets until I was like probably 12. But I think it was because there used to be this movie called Once Upon a Forest that I was scared of because of a scene with an owl. But that's neither here nor there.
Hashtag traumatic owl. All right?
Yeah, traumatic owl.
So it sounds like you've been interacting with fantasy stories for a very, very long time.
For 30 years.
So was there something that you encountered first in D&D that sort of reminded you of something you'd seen earlier, or is it just sort of the feeling of
the vibe?
The vibe, yes.
It was very much like a vibe thing where I've written a lot of fantasy stuff, and I would have people ask me like, "Oh, do you like Dungeons and Dragons?" And I would be like, "I like fantasy, but I've never played." And anytime my mom would hear the utterance, I feel like she would like climb out of the wall and be like, "No, it's the devil," and then go back to work or wherever. You know.
It was in me so deep by the time I got in college. I got invited to my first game, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to play Dungeons and Dragons?" And I literally, this is a true thing that happened, and this is how bad the Satanic Panic was in the South. I leaned over the table, I lowered my voice like we were talking about covert ops, and I was like, "You can't say that, we're in public."
Oh no.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And at that age, like, I had peers that played, but I was never afforded the opportunity to play. So that's my nice way of being, nobody would let me play their game with them. Which, funnily enough, like, I deleted my Facebook recently because my 10-year high school reunion got canceled because of a hurricane. So they were trying to reschedule it.
Wow.
And they're like, post a bio about yourself so we can print it out. And I'm like, I'm probably not going to go to this, but I will do it anyway. And I posted that, like, I play Dungeons and Dragons professionally, and I'm a professional fantasy writer. And a bunch of people that never let me play with them before got super incensed about it. And I'm like, oh, you're mad. That sucks.
If you don't role play with me at my teenage, you don't deserve me as my professional D&D player.
Indeed. So,
Exactly.
Hadeel.
Yes.
Everyone goes through the process of making their characters differently.
Totally not
Oh
red.
my god,
Hashtag.
not like this, Jerika.
No.
It can't be like this.
Oh, no. All right.
Yes, like this. Give it to me like this.
See? She going with me. Okay. Everyone goes about the process of making their characters differently. How do you start creating a character?
Being somebody who writes a lot, especially fantasy, I'm always creating new people to either love or hate.
Nice.
I love to project my feelings onto fake people. I have like an actual literal folder of essentially character sheets or like character bios of just people I think of, or I make up stories for people that I see out in public. I live in downtown Seattle, so the people watching is choice. Especially now that it's on fire a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
It's rough.
Yeah, the smoke, I've heard the smoke is a little ominous.
I can walk to work, and just walking to work gave me a massive headache. And I'm like, I love death.
It's orange in the sky.
It's orange in the sky, and I'm scared.
That's a nightmare.
I just think of like a situation, and I'm like, all right, who's in this situation? So I just make up a bunch of people. But if we're talking about my characters for D&D, with Nejma, I thought it would be fun to combine two TV characters into like a wizard's body, so I picked Tahani and Mona Lisa Saperstein. But for Miga,
I cannot believe it's Mona Lisa. That is so good.
Now
that you've said it, I know it.
Oh, it totally
now
fits.
that you said it, I can see it.
Money, please.
Money, please. Oh my god. I love that character and her brother. Oh, I love that show. Rest in peace.
So we had Nate on our last show, and we had originally toyed with the idea of giving Nejma like a horrible twin
Nate
brother,
wants to
and
battle?
Nate was gonna play him.
Man.
Yeah. But we decided on this arc like moves the storyline along better.
Missed opportunities, honestly.
Next time we'll find time for Nejma's horrible twin brother.
Ralphio finds a way.
Oh, maybe we can get Ben like Schwartzman to do it. That would be I'm like, I have $20 I found in my pocket. Can you please be on my show? For Miga, I came into Hell's Bells last, so I wanted to add something to the party that wasn't there, which was comic relief. I decided to make Miga a child because I think kids are really funny in that overly honest and pure way, and I write stories that are very serious, but I also realize that we live in very serious times, and sometimes people just kind of want to escape hot nonsense. So I think it's really important to laugh, and I'm very much a ham. I've always been like the class clown type of kid, or just like the jokey kid, and I use humor to diffuse a lot of situations. So I thought for a party as large as Hell's Bells, they're going to need somebody that maybe isn't fighting all the time, maybe isn't the center of tension, but like can do something that's kind of regarded as like silly, or just like it's pure humor. It's not punching down, and that's what I really wanted. I wanted to make somebody that was funny, that doesn't punch down, and it's just like this, almost a reminder to people who watch Hell's Bells that like, yes, the world is maybe not so great outside of this, and the world doesn't seem to be so good in this particular campaign either, but there are still people who don't quite understand the seriousness of it all, and that's okay. It's okay to not have that all the time.
You have permission from Miga to be happy.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Is like I wanted people to like take from that. I can want to draw with crayons, and I can want to make friends with very like broken robots, and like the thing with Miga is she always sees the situation as sort of a positive. She treats the campaign like a game because she's little. So I think I kind of want people to take that as a permission slip to have fun, even in serious situations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, this actually rolls into a different question we had, which I think kind of ties into this and wouldn't be too difficult to answer, which is there is a serious performative aspect to
He's
the
taking
kind of Dungeons
it
and Dragons.
away from me.
Yeah.
I have mistreated it.
There's a performative aspect to this D&D show that you're doing, and it's kind of jumping into the pool at the deep end. You're being broadcast on the D&D official page. It's going up on YouTube afterwards. It's being preserved for all time. And like you said, it's your first 2 campaigns in D&D. So how have you really interacted with the performative aspect? Did you enjoy that? Is it really helping you to get into the character that you're on camera, that you can see other people's faces? Or do you even think about it, really? Yeah, absolutely. You got to be.
I'm very, like, I'll be 100% honest. I'm very much on when I stream.
Totally.
Because it's to me, it's like I'm playing pretend, and I really enjoy that. So I like to make it as believable, I guess. I'm not a very good actor. I'm sure that will come with time. But a lot of it doesn't take a lot of acting either, which is nice. But I like to also, I like immersive experiences, especially when it comes to fantasy. So I'm very much on, and I thought this question, I had the opportunity to look over the questions, but I thought this question was such a good one because I'm actually super shy in real life. Or like I hate the phrase real life, and I just want to get it out there. I hate the phrase real life. When you're interacting with somebody online, that's still real life. We're not holograms. You're talking to a real person. But
yes, true.
In person, I'm very shy, and I had some people approach me in different instances, not as a group, at Emerald City Comic Con this year, and they told me that they thought that I was super different. Like they recognized me from the show, and they thought that I was super different in real life, and I was like, hopefully it's good, like, you know, and they're like, no, we just expected you to be like Nejma all the time. And I'm like, I wish I had that blazing confidence in myself, but I do not. But yeah, I see D&D as a form of acting in a way. Nejma and Mika are just characters, so I ham it up a lot. I'm very much a ham.
Same.
As you should.
I think we might, if I may be so bold, approach RP role-playing in similar ways. And also for me, podcasting.
Oh, yeah.
Surprisingly, perhaps, for some of you out there, I like to keep myself to myself in human interactions face-to-face. But there's something about playing D&D and talking about D&D that, like, makes me feel like I can open up a little bit.
Right.
So there's things that
during D&D, you're given permission to be silly and goofy and weird and out there that you're not really given in the standard social contract.
Right.
People are like, go nuts. And you have like the shared space where it's okay to just go wild. And that can be very freeing for people who are kind of reserved, because a lot of times the reason we're so reserved is that we don't know if like going wild will be received well or not.
And there's a difference in going wild, right? So like, I'm not going to make a soap slip and slide, you know, in my face-to-face life, because why would I?
Yeah.
You know? Whereas there was a specific instance where it was useful in the game, right? So
it was genius.
Yeah, it was pretty good. My superlative moment. But anyway.
Yeah, she put a slip and slide on a hill, and all the enemies coming up the hill had to like make dex saves or be washed down the hill.
Yeah, and that's like in our game last night, we were in limbo, and part of being in limbo is you have to focus on creating the world around you. And Mika's a child, so everything looked like scribble knots. It was all crayon drawings, and like flowers had happy faces, and trees had the ability to slap, give tree slappies.
Yes.
Oh,
so it was just like this
that's
goofy
so
fun time.
cool. Yeah.
Tree slappies.
Yeah. And I think you rolled like a 2 on that, so the tree was a little bit
derpy.
but the slappies were good.
Was that an int check?
Yes.
Yeah, it was definitely intelligence check.
Because that brings us to another great question we had, another quickie, I think. A lot of times it's the bad scores that can really make our characters fun to play, and leaning into those bad scores, exploring what those bad scores relate to in your actual character. And, you know, you have, obviously, a little bit of a deficit in intelligence in Nejma.
Mika.
In Mika, yeah.
Yeah, Mika has, well, the thing is, like, Nejma really lacks in wisdom, too, which is really funny, because she's...
I'm not surprised. The way you play it, I kind of even get that.
She's, blissfully unaware. I love playing up weaknesses in literally anything. Like, whether I'm doing D&D or writing up fantasy, I will pick a weakness and be like, this is now, I'm nailing you to this cross. Say goodbye to your mother. And it's not great, but I'm super into self-depreciating humor lately. And I think it really depends on who your character is. But it's super easy to play into the whole Mika's kind of dumb because she's a literal street child. But that might not work with, say, a paladin who is expected to have like gone to Jesus Hammer College, or like
Jesus Hammer College.
or like a bard
man.
who is like expected to, like, I don't know, have some semblance of music theory. But
Oh no, in my experience, bards are all very dumb.
they're all dumb.
Oh boy.
Shots fired.
Yeah.
He's not even here to defend himself. I love it.
I play with two bards. Like, Jimmy is like not necessarily very smart, but apparently he's really ripped. And Holly plays Dirge, who I don't know what her intelligence is as far as Dirge goes. I do know that she's not very persuasive, but that's fine.
Extremely morose, that character.
Very morose. I love Dirge. But with Nejma's whole thing besides the wisdom is she's physically the weakest of the party. Her strength is like 8 with a -1.
Oh, yes.
I can take that and not, like, she's the type of person who would be like, well, why would I lift a finger when I can cast magic? And I can put all of her mishaps into magic and really play up her prissiness and her snobbiness by having her refuse to do manual labor because she thinks it's beneath her.
Absolutely.
She also can't do it.
She can't do it. So what's funny is, like, her strength is really low, but her dexterity, like her acrobatics, is really high. I think she's like proficient in acrobatics.
I have to say that I think that's what I really, really like about your role playing is the fact that you can play so well into your character's weaknesses. It just personally draws me in.
Yeah, the difference between a good role player and a great role player is a person who can acknowledge that their character doesn't have to be perfect all the time.
Right.
Making mistakes
Ryan Hartman
is fun.
He's good at it too. He's fine.
Please don't drag that man.
His weakness is his inability to recognize that he has weaknesses. Meta.
His defense of the good boy for a minute, he's even said that he chose a character who was so, like, dumb in a way that he didn't realize how, like, that he wasn't perfect, right? Like, that is that is his flaw, right?
His weakness is that he cares too much, guys.
Yeah, that's a thing too.
He just cares so much.
Hey, this is Jay of the future checking in here for just a moment. I was going to let you know we do actually have a little bit more here with Hadeel that we did want to make sure we got in, but this episode is running a little long, so what we're going to do is we're going to cut here and then play the rest of that interview, which is a ton of really exciting stuff about playing D&D with young people. So we are going to put that into the next episode and in this one here. So 2 for the price of 1 on Hadeel. That's great, right? I think that there will be no complaints about more time with Hadeel in this podcast. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been another episode of Insight Check. We really appreciate our guest for joining us on this auspicious occasion. I don't know why I said auspicious. This dark hour. We want to thank our guest for joining us today. Do you have any place that people might go to in order to find you and things that you're doing?
I live in the woods, don't find me. Just kidding. I am most active on Twitter, and that's at Twittyshuch, TWITTYSUCH. I do post the occasional picture of knitting stuff and nature on, I almost said Netflix, not entirely sure why, on Instagram.
And really cool outfits of the day.
Yes, sometimes I like to put the good old outfit on there. But yeah, on Instagram. I also stream twice a week on the twitch.tv/D&D channel. Thursdays from 5 to 7 Pacific time is Trapped in the Birdcage. And then on Sundays from 6 to 8 is Hell's Bells, again, Pacific time. Occasionally, I've been trying to be more regular with it. I will stream on my own personal Twitch, which is just Twittyshuch. Everything's Twittyshuch. That's all it is. And then my website is blog.twittyshuch.com, which is gonna get a bit of a makeover here soon.
And the blog is really cool. I can definitely vouch for that blog. There's a lot of really good. There it is. I really enjoyed the goals article I was reading today. Was really I really enjoyed it. And then there was also one on there about the summer camp that was really just a pleasure to read. So yeah, it is absolutely worth checking out. If you have a few minutes and you want to read something uplifting and motivating, I think that it was both of those things for me.
And just, if anybody's keeping track at home, I still haven't rolled over my 401k, and we're closing in on September here, so I really need to do that. One of my small goals was to roll over my 401k, and I have not
Oh
done
my
that.
goodness.
Yeah.
I've not done that at all.
No, that is that deep cut for those blog watchers. It's good. I knew exactly what you were talking about. I love it.
There you go. That's it. So, as always, thank you to Vinswept for our song Never Stand Alone, and thank you to Amy T. Falcone for our images and our faces. Without you, we wouldn't have faces. We also want you to know that if you like the show, you can always ask us questions at Insight Check Pod, and you can leave reviews on iTunes. We are there somehow. We also wanted to say... I don't. No, there's no other we also. That was it. That was the whole thing.
Answering your cues from our collective A's.
This
Was...
Insight.
Check.
Yes!
Yay!
Good!
Again, almost said Netflix. I don't know why.
This was Insight Netflix.
It's in the dome. So we, we're delivering those cues directly to the A's. We're going into the question time.
Get those answer hole ready.
No,
Right into your a-holes.
No, stop, no.
Listen,
no.
Hadeel was with me. Hadeel
All
was
right.
with me. It's good.
Okay,
I got you,
all
bruh.
right, fine. Put it right on the A, right there. Oh, God.
Yep.
All
I'm
right,
glad I got
we're doing
Jerika
it.
with that when I broke her.
You
All right.
did. You did.
Let's go into Q&As.
Do you want to start, Jerika, about a Amiga question?
I would. Let me get
find
there.
that question.
Delay though.
Please, she's broken.
Yeah.
Yes, I have to
ruined
put
her.
myself together. All right.